Welcome in. I am the Crypto Bull God, and this is all in the charts. If you appreciate the content, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, drop me a comment, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for all notifications to know randomly when I will go live. As I've said, once the market starts picking up, which I'm expecting to occur, not too much in the distant future here, I'll be live streaming a little bit more frequently. But for the time being, like I said, you can follow me on X. I really am pretty active on there, posting charts, trying to keep those that value my insights up to date in terms of my current thoughts. But when it makes sense, I think, I'd still like to come out here and live stream and kind of share my thoughts on the market. So we just had a June close. We're entering, it's really hard to believe, we're entering the second half of 2025. And so I just wanted to provide context in terms of where the market is at, what we're looking for to occur, and what's realistic. What could we realistically expect? So with that being said, who do we have here? Kevin and Juan. Welcome in. Welcome in, guys. All right, so let's start off with Bitcoin here. So we're looking at the 12-hour, and nothing has changed in the sense that one of the things that I've been communicating to you guys is that I think the thing that has really weeded a lot of people out and gotten a lot of frustration beyond the a true alt season not occurring and altcoins not moving, there's just been a lot of chop in the market, a lot of chop. And you can see Bitcoin's been chopping around here. It's sort of in a pennant formation. Look at this as a flagpole, and then you have this little pennant going on here. So we're just chopping around. Bitcoin's waiting, to decide what it wants to do. I noticed before coming on the live stream here, we just are starting to see a MACD cross down. Now, if we study recent bearish crosses on the MACD on Bitcoin, it doesn't mean anything necessarily really negative. But what it will most likely result in, and this is what I'm expecting, for the remainder of the week, we're just going to chop in this area. Wouldn't be surprised to see on a lower volume day. Remember, this is a holiday week in the United States. It is July 4th, celebration of our independence. On Friday, the markets are going to be closed. It's going to be a much lower volume day. Whales really like to play games, market manipulators. So, one of the things that I've been sharing with you on X is I would not be surprised whatsoever, and I'm expecting at this point to see a wick in this area, right? I don't think we're going to close below here at in the 103 range, but I think you could see prices get down to this 103, 104 range. If that were to occur, now that's a small pullback, guys. Pulling back on Bitcoin to 1, I've been here for a long time, so it's funny to even be talking about Bitcoin stabilizing above $100,000. That's insane when I think about it. When I first got into this market and was buying Bitcoin at $3,500. So, but anyway, that's a little pullback. We're talking about maybe a 2% pullback. But what you really need to watch for are charts like this, right? And we'll get into Caspa. Caspa and all the other altcoins, if Bitcoin were to pull back to that 103, 104 area, you're going to see some volatility enter the market. And then you have to ask yourself the question, if you're looking at a healthy chart and it's entering an area that holds up as support structurally and it looks good, is that a buying opportunity, especially with where we're at in the market? So I say that to say you could be setting up here for some even better entries on some of these altcoins. But that's really what I'm expecting for Bitcoin. I don't really expect too much going on this week. I think next week will be very telling. We're going to get into a few charts here, and I'm going to share with you why I think in the coming, month or two, that close, I would say the next 4 to 8 weeks, we're going to know a lot about the future trajectory of prices. Bitcoin has to make up its mind on what it's going to do. Let's get into the weekly first. So this is the Gaussian channel. We've studied this before. As long as once it turns green, you just don't want any candle body closes in there. You can see we had a little bit of a fake out here. Let's look at the price indicators really quickly. This is one of the things I wanted to focus on. I don't have price pulled up, but you can visualize it. Price was moving up during this time frame, but we're getting negative divergence, right? We're getting negative divergences on the RSI, meaning the RSI is building lower highs relative to price building higher highs. Now, I personally have a price range on Bitcoin. My best guess is it's going to top out anywhere between 130 to 180, right? Now, I'm not selling based on that. I released a video like, I don't know, 10 months ago that talked about topping indicators, and I plan to scale out of the market once those topping indicators begin to flash. But if I had to take an educated guess, I'd say 130 to 180. Well, as we're coming down here, okay, we don't want to start breaking below 50. We don't want to do that. But I suspect we're going to start popping up here pretty soon towards 70. And the question that we're going to have answered for us very shortly, in my opinion, is will this break? If this holds and we come up here and we don't surpass this negative divergence on the RSI, you're going to have a weaker top within Bitcoin, something maybe in the 120 to 130 range. If we can break the negative divergence on the weekly, that is going to set up for a monumental run in Bitcoin up towards, in my opinion, up towards that 150 to 180 level, maybe even higher. And your altcoins are going to go fucking nuts. Okay, I mean, and I'll show a chart on why I feel very strongly about this, but we could be on the precipice of literally the largest altcoin season we have ever seen, despite what everyone is saying on crypto Twitter. I would really encourage you, when you're on X, don't gauge the level of confidence you should have in someone's post relative to the amount of followers they have. I say this over and over and over again. Not going to name names. There's a prominent person out there with hundreds of thousands of followers. Dude's been calling alt season every other week. I had to mute him. He was getting annoying. So just be careful who you follow. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out, this is, again, the weekly chart. This is really important to point out to you. Again, everyone here, including myself, no matter what channel, what other channels you tune into, the really good technical analysts, the people who are really authentically trying to come out here and share with you their knowledge, there's a handful out there. What they're doing is they're doing the best job that they can using a limited data set. This is a limited data set, and they're making inferences based on that. They're making these probabilistic statements, right? Nothing I come out here and tell you are things that I know with certainty. They're just probabilities, right? We have a really, really limited data set here. But there's an interesting piece of information from this data set. And that is if we look at the Gaussian channel here, okay? The Gaussian channel, the way you can think of a Gaussian channel is it's sort of an indication of strength or weakness within a trend. When it's green, it's bullish, red, it's bearish, right? The trend is either turning and staying bullish or turning down and staying bearish, right? Pretty simple. Now, what I've noticed on this chart, this is a weekly Bitcoin chart. Once we flashed green on the Gaussian channel back in 16 going into our 18 blow off top, that was 686 days, okay? If we look at the prior run-up from 2019 to 2021, we can see this is 833 days. Now, if we extrapolate, okay, there's a couple things you can do with a limited data set like this. What's reasonable to assume is that we could hit something close to 686. We could hit something close to 833. We could hit something in the middle, or we could project out a similar growth rate in terms of the number of days it will take to reach a market top, right? So for example, if we look at 833 days and we divide that by 686, we see that the prior cycle, once the Gaussian turned green, it was around a 21.5% increase, right? So what I've done over here based on that information, this is pretty simplistic analysis. So based on that information, first off, if we were to look at a time horizon here, okay, and I'll show you this. Once we flashed green, look where we're at right now. Well, we're already at 693, which is pretty close to 686, right? So there's a case to be made that we've topped, right? We've topped and we're going to continue going down. But as we get further into some of the charts I want to update you on, I don't think that's the case whatsoever. So there's a case for that. If we extend this out further, we get to 763 days, which represents the midpoint between these two dates, right? We talked about taking something in the middle. That takes us out to September of this year. If we extend out here, we're talking about doing something similar that we did back in 2021, which would push us out into November of this year. But interestingly enough, okay, if we were to extend this out with a similar growth rate of 21.5% to the 833 days, it takes us all the way out into the end of April of next year. Now, keep in mind, one of the things that I've been sharing with you, and you should have noted in the market if you've been here for a long time, and we'll get into the Bitcoin dominance chart and altcoins. Altcoins are very compressed. Bitcoin dominance has not had its massive bleed that it typically has, and things seem to be taking longer. And intuitively, that should make sense to you. The market capitalization, as small as it is still growing. Back in 2017, that was the infancy of crypto. We're still in the early innings, in my opinion, fairly early innings. But we're getting later and later here. There's more market participants. The demographic is changing who's participating in the market. So things are beginning to look a lot different. We're going to have to be a lot more nimble moving forward in terms of how we're assessing the market. But with all of that being said, if the theory holds true that we continue lengthening and things are taking longer, there is a case to be made that we could extend well into 2026. Okay? So right now, and I had posted this out the other day, that is how I came out with this top zone, that we are going to top, and I have the min 2021 and max laid out here actually in text. But this light yellow rectangle is indicating, based on this chart alone, okay, where a theoretical blow-off top in Bitcoin could be. Now, your altcoins are going to top in a similar fashion. Many of them tend to top like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the Bitcoin top. But I think it is very reasonable, based on this one chart, to say, hey, we could see a top in Bitcoin sometime between September of this year, as early as September, all the way as late as April of next year, right? And I've come out here and told you before, I am expecting a big run here in Bitcoin, getting up to at least $130,000 in the coming handful of months here. And I suspect, and we'll know once it actually unfolds, there's going to be a drop in dominance. There's going to be a big run in alts. We'll have to see how big of a run. But I am planning on taking profits. I am planning on taking profits because that would result, obviously, at some point in a large correction. We could reassess the market at that point and then decide if it makes sense to get back in for one last run. But we're going to take this day by day, right? I'm just giving you my thoughts and sort of how I've extrapolated out what I think is possible. But this chart is really interesting. Now, this is another really interesting chart. This is a 2-week chart on Bitcoin. Again, this is just a theory that I have. If we really do see a top somewhere around, I mean, you could even extend this out here. It doesn't really matter. But if we saw a top, somewhere out towards the end of this year, what I'm noticing on this chart, let me clean this up real quick just so there's not too much on here. You see the formation here. This is a rising wedge. We have a potential, now the black line, don't get confused here. The black line is just an ascending line of support. Once that breaks, I strongly suspect we'll be entering a bear market. But in any event, the green lines, if you focus on them, is a rising wedge. A rising wedge, as we studied on the Bitcoin dominance chart many a times, it is a bearish pattern and has an extremely high probability, not certainty, of breaking down. Could this chart break up and break could it break above this rising wedge pattern and invalidate it? Absolutely. But I'm telling you that it's very evident to me that there is a potential rising wedge forming on Bitcoin. So it wouldn't surprise me. I'm just having fun and theorizing here that maybe we see a run up to 130 to 150 in the coming months. We have a rather large correction, stay above 100,000, and then continue up into the end of the year or into 2026. We'll have to see. But this is just one theory based on this one view that I'm presenting to you. Let's take a look at the monthly chart. Here's another interesting view that I put together to say, hey, when could we potentially top? Now, I will tell you why I tend to lean more on the Gaussian channel view than this view in a moment. So this is a monthly chart. Now, there's a few things I've indicated here. There's an ascending line of support. Once it broke, we entered a bear market. You can see we've stayed above our line. We just had our highest monthly close ever, guys. There's no reason to be bearish in this market. Just because things are taking longer than you or I expected, it doesn't change anything so long as the data is telling us with a higher degree probability that something bullish is going to happen. We just don't know if it's next week. We don't know if it's 3 months from now. But the charts are telling us that. We just have to be patient. I will tell you this, and I'm thinking of this as I'm speaking to this chart. The biggest mistake, or mistakes plural, that I've made in this market early on when I got in, it all centered around impatience. Okay? If I had played this market flawlessly, I would not have a 9 to 5. Okay? And that's just being transparent. If I had played the market flawlessly, I wouldn't have a 9 to 5. If I was more patient in the market earlier on, I'd be in an even better financial situation. But I didn't, and you learn from those things and you move forward. And so I'm trying to share that with you. Don't be impatient. If there's reasons to be bearish and you need to get out of the market, do it. Trust your objective view of the market if you're studying data, but don't be subjective about it. Don't give in to your emotions, okay? Stay patient. We just had our highest monthly close. Now, what's going to be interesting here, MACD looks great. Stochastic RSI, I want to see it start to cross back up above 70, the 70 to 80 level here. The RSI is going to be a really interesting view to me. Again, similar to the conversation that we had on the weekly negative divergence on the RSI, we have a slightly downward sloping line here. Of course, there's a more macro, and this is a big reason why I don't think we've topped. Every time we've had a blow off top, look at how overheated the monthly RSI has got. We're nowhere near there, okay? Now, if we were, you can see we're starting to curl down, but if we were to come up here and we never pass this line, we're going to have a very weak top in Bitcoin. But once we blow past here and maybe we back test this as resistance, because the relative strength index can act, this price indicator can at times act very similar to price action on a chart. If we break this resistance, we come down, we back test, maybe we have a blow off top sometime later this year or into next year. But this is another chart you want to keep an eye on, because for right now, there's definite weakness on the RSI, which is a concern. It's certainly a concern. So it's something we want to keep an eye on. Let's get into, actually, before I get into Caspa, let's take a look at Bitcoin dominance. Now, again, this is something that we've spent quite a bit of time looking at, right? And I don't know if you could stick this on different time frames at this point and still have a rising wedge. Based on the time frames I've evaluated the dominance chart, I see more of a rising channel. Again, maybe there's a rising wedge present, but I haven't really studied it lately that intensely to feel confident with stating that. The big thing I feel confident in is what I'm showing you here. And this is why you haven't seen me come on Twitter and say it's alt season. Guys, what will lead to the dominance dropping massively? Okay, the thing that's going to lead to dominance really taking a hard hit are your larger projects. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're a fan of them, you want to see them do well. Ethereum in particular, Solana, XRP, even Cardano, Doge. Things that are in the top 10 or near the top 10, even Hyperliquid. All these things, once they begin to really move, they're going to steal dominance from Bitcoin, and you're going to see this drop. Again, we have limited data. I can't tell you what's going to happen. What I can tell you, and this is why I remain extremely confident, the odds are in our favor, because every single time Bitcoin has gotten overheated and gotten near or at its blow off top, we've seen the same fucking thing every time. So why would you want to bet against history? At some point, something will change in this chart. Just like, for instance, Bitcoin never had a new all-time high before its halving. I always use this as an example until the prior halving, right? Nothing will continue in perpetuity the same way, right? Consistently. That's just not the way things work. There are probabilities. Nothing is 100% certain in life besides living and dying. So in this case, we have a limited data set, but what the limited data set tells us is that in the prior two times Bitcoin has topped out, we've seen a massive plummet in dominance and a big altcoin run. I feel 85% confident we're going to see this, okay? 15% of me says, what if something is different? You know, we're going to keep an eye on the charts. But 85% of me says, this motherfucker's going to drop. And what I'm seeing in the market right now, which actually I had posted this out earlier today, that leaves me feeling even more encouraged. There's a lot of doom and despair and frustration and saltiness, and I like to see that. Because this is going to trigger when many market participants are sidelined or salty, not paying attention, right? This is not going to fire off when everyone is expecting it. I mean, how many calls for alt season have you seen? Have I come out here and said alt season is here? Alt season? No, I have not. Because I know what charts to look at to feel confident that alt season is occurring and upon us, okay? The other chart you obviously want to pay attention to real quick, let me look at one other chart here I just thought of. You definitely want to take a look at Ethereum, right? Ethereum is going to be extremely important to the success of our alt season. Similar to Bitcoin, right? The higher Bitcoin goes, the more euphoria there exists in the market, the more capital that's going to come in, right? The more greed, okay? The more people that aren't in crypto or forgot about crypto, they're going to come in. Ethereum, if Ethereum starts to skyrocket, okay? Now you can see we're in a clear downward trend and Ethereum has a lot of work still to do. I'm not going to really start to feel confident about Ethereum until we start clearing 4,000. But, you know, Ethereum can come up here and start breaking out and we start going towards 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. Guys, it is going to result, take it from someone who's been here for years, it's going to result in a complete sentiment shift to hyper risk on. It's going to, I've been here for the Ethereum runs where it sort of takes your breath away, and I'm expecting Ethereum to go substantially higher from where it's at right now, okay? And once that occurs, if it occurs, it's going to provide a lot of confidence to go risk on with riskier altcoins. Let's get into, before I get into Casper, let's take a look at Total 3. Do I really need to speak to this chart too much? This is something I've posted out on Twitter. These are all of your altcoins outside of the top 10, right? I know a lot of you guys like myself hold a bunch of altcoins that are outside of the top 10. So we're not talking about Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, Doge, whatever else is in there, BNB. We're not talking about that. We're talking about everything outside of the top 10. I'll just let you kind of stare at that. I don't really think I need to speak to that. Now, we're going to move on to another view of Total 3. Now, this is a really interesting view, and it lends itself to the statements that I made earlier that altcoins are extremely compressed, okay? Extremely compressed. When we had our correction down here, look at this. We've just been gradually rising up. We touched our prior all-time high, and we've come down here. Notice, and again, this is why I don't understand why people are so bearish on altcoins. It's just taking longer. We are in a clear ascending line of support here. I have two ascending lines shown here. I have a black line for the most recent time period, and I have this long blue line from all the way back here in 2019, okay? We're in a clear uptrend. Now, what am I showing over here, and why do I have a target between 3 trillion and 4.5 trillion? Why do I have 3 trillion? That is a good question. Must have been a fib extension. I don't know on the spot, honestly. There's a good reason for it. But one of the things I took a look at was what did I look at here? 60. Oh, I see what I did. Okay. Took me a second. I put this chart together a little while ago. Okay, so here's what I am theorizing on this chart, okay? And it sort of is consistent with how we looked at the weekly Gaussian channel on Bitcoin and kind of hypothesized where we could top out between September and April of next year, okay? From market cycle top here to our lowest level on Total 3, we had a 92% correction. From our all-time top here in 2021 all the way down to the lowest price that we had here, we had a 75% correction. Now, what you can do similarly is you can kind of work backwards, okay, which is what I did here. I worked backwards and essentially extrapolated a decreasing percentage down from top to bottom because the market cap is growing. That would make sense. And I have a few different ranges in here, and that's how I came up with these estimates, the two blue ranges here. A 64% correction, maybe a 70% correction. And I'm theorizing, by the way, the other assumption that I'm making is that when we bottom, and this is the way to frame this is I'm working backwards to figure out where we could top at. I am theorizing that, this is a good way to state it, if we bottom somewhere around here where our prior top was, okay, which is consistent with what we did here, okay? We bottom somewhere where our prior top was, and we assume that we're going to have some lesser degree of a correction like we've had over the prior two cycles. Well, that would put us up somewhere around 3.8 to 3.1 trillion. Now the 4.5, I'd be lying to you at this moment if I told you where I came up with that. I'm assuming, I'm not going to check now, but I'm assuming I used a fib extension. But basically, however I came up with the 4.5, I'm hypothesizing that your total 3 is going to go all the way up to between 3 to 4.5, anywhere between 3 to 4.5. Now, where are we sitting at right now? Let's actually make sense of these numbers. What does this actually mean? Great, CBG, we're going to 3 to 4.5 trillion. Like, what the fuck? What does it actually mean for my altcoin? Well, I'm about to tell you. Right now, we're sitting at 800 billion. So essentially what I'm telling you is I believe total 3 from current price levels, okay, has in it between a 4 to 11, no wait, a 4 to an 11x, okay? A 4 to an 11x. A 4 to an 11x. No wait, I'm sorry. Sometimes, you know, I can do this shit in my head, but on the spot, for whatever reason, the camera's on you. I apologize, folks. A 4 to a 6x. Okay. Yeah, 4 point. Man, trust me, I'm very good with math, but when you're on the spot and the camera's looking at you, sometimes you fuck up. That's just, that's honest. We're looking at a 4 to 6x. Now, what does that mean for your altcoin? That means literally for every cryptocurrency, it's a weighted average, okay? This market cap, think of it as a weighted average. The more heavily... the higher market caps are going to contribute more here, and the lower market caps are going to contribute less. So if you have a 10 million project that does a 1,000x, it's going to contribute a lot less to this index than a 20 billion that does a 2x. Okay, you follow? What that's telling you is, on average, based on a weighted out by market cap, okay, you're looking at a 4 to, what did I say, 4 to 6x from here, 4 to 5x. So you can expect that on average, your altcoin should do a 4 to 5x from here. Now, the stronger performers are obviously going to do far more than that. And that's where I tell you that what you need to pay attention to is the chart of your altcoin and how strong it is or how weak it is. I've been posting about SPX 6900 because it has one of the strongest charts, right? And unless if something changes in the chart, why is a chart is what I expect anything but that trend to continue? I mean, it's had one of the strongest runs in a weaker environment. What's going to happen once momentum really begins to pick up? So you could expect, on average, 4 to 5x. The stronger performers are going to do much more than that. You could do a 10x, 15x, 20x, 30x. But that's what this indice is telling you, is that it's ready to put in a 4 to 5x. I think I said 6x. Excuse me, 4 to 6x. Todd, super chats are never expected, but always appreciated. Thank you, kind sir. Good to see you. What's your opinion of better possible ROI between ACH of better? Well, I can tell you right now. I don't know. Are you asking me? Well, I think what you're asking me is which position, in my opinion, would be better to get into. Confirm if that's the case, Todd, or if you want me to evaluate both charts. I can tell you right now, I mean, I can pull up ACH, but it's really simple for me. And I'll tell you why. This, and the uptrend even broke here. This trend, this is a chart that has not performed as well as I would have hoped. Okay? It just hasn't, right? There are countless charts like this. As a chartist, when you're evaluating price data, you only have what's in front of you. As price develops, your view needs to change. Harmony. Like, Harmony hasn't done shit. It's been ranging in between 1 to 3 cents for 3 years. It hasn't done anything. Synapse, which I know I had posted about quite frequently. Chart's completely fallen apart. I got out of that a long time ago. We all know the horrific story of Casper. Look at A0. They're all shit stocks. Or shit cryptos. Okay? They're shit coins. I'm not calling this a shit coin, but I'm telling you, is this still possible, what I have shown? Yes, I still think it's possible, but I'm just not crazy about this chart, Todd. If we look at SPX, again, don't, and I'm not saying, by the way, Todd, I'm not saying you're saying this, I'm saying this for the audience. Don't allow the market cap to dictate what you see as potential ROI, or right? Meaning ACH has a much lower market cap than SPX. That doesn't mean ACH is going to outperform SPX. Right now, we're in a massive cup and handle. I mean, I've posted about. Todd, do you follow me on Twitter, by the way? I'm not sure. Do you follow me on Twitter? On X? I got to give you a follow if that's the case. Send me a DM if you follow me, because I'll definitely give you a follow. Yeah, so we're in a cup and handle right now. We've had this nice rounding. Great. Send me a DM, please. We've had this nice rounding bottom. We're sort of consolidating in here. I've given you the buy zone. So if you're following me, you know this. 113 all the way down to 85 cents. Do I think we're going to hit 85? No. Do I think it's possible? Absolutely. I think it's possible. But anything between 113 and 85, this is just a stronger chart. Like, when you look at these two charts, okay? When you look at these two charts, for now, gonna do that. Sort of just ranging here. When you look at this chart, and you look at this chart, which chart looks more bullish, right? I mean, yeah. So, never financial advice, you know that, Todd. But if I were to direct you in one position, this is the stronger chart, hands down. In fact, I've been pretty transparent that I've been increasing my position. I increased it by 30% recently. I'm looking to increase my position by another 50%. So it's a very strong chart. And the other thing I've shared with you guys, if you've been paying attention, for a while there I stopped, but for a while I was trolling Murad about his cult meme coins, right? But I told you guys I was having fun trolling him. If you actually listen to what he says, a lot of what he speaks to, I actually agree with, okay? I agree with, and I get the rationality behind why you may want to invest in a cult meme coin. I get the complete rationality. Do I agree with him on everything? No, I don't agree with him on everything. It's rare to agree with anyone on everything, okay? But he makes a lot of really good points. He's also hustling a lot for his crypto, but he's making a lot of really good points, and I've listened to interviews with him. And again, what are we here for? We're here to make money, right, as investors. So if someone shares information with me that suggests there's a really strong narrative brewing and supporting reasons why, and then I look at a chart and it's bullish as fuck, why would I not invest in that? Like, so you got the fundamental reasons and you got the TA, which is the primary thing I go to. So there you go. I hope that was helpful. Let's take a look at Caspa. I know I have a lot of people who follow me who are fellow Caspa supporters. Nothing here has changed for me. I really want this line to hold. okay? I don't want to talk about price targets with you guys. Will Casper hit $1, $3? Guys, let's break 20 cents, all right? Let's break 20 cents. Now, here's, and I don't know if I spoke to this, but what I'm trying to show you here, what I'm trying to illustrate on this chart, besides all these colorful lines here, red lines of resistance, green lines of support, I'm trying to express to you that we've been Super Marioing down, okay? We've had these lower highs, which is not good. And we've had the lower lows coming in, right? We had all these lower lows coming in. But what are the two green circles symbolizing to you? It's signaling a potential, and I say potential, higher low. I'm not confident calling this a higher low until we hold this as support. I don't want to break 7.2 to 6.8 cents. In my opinion, if 7.2 to 6.8 cents holds on CASPA, if that level holds, that's going to be your best buying opportunity. And we're going to continue going up. But I want to see this area hold, and then I want to start to come up to this region. I have commented so many times now on X about 14.8 cents. Not only is there confluence here, let's take a look at why 14.8 cents is so important. Not only is there confluence, but if we get up here, now we're retesting this lower high. We've gotten above here, so guess what we can do? If we theoretically got up to that level, now we can do this, okay? Let's say price comes up here. Now we can change this to green, okay? And now we can say, okay, we have something pretty special here. Because I've told you guys that once we start flying, I will say this, I'll stick my neck out there and I guess you could say make a prediction or draw a line in the sand. When we reclaim 14.8 cents, new all-time highs are coming pretty quickly. New all-time highs are coming pretty quickly. But we have a lot of work to do, guys. It's 100% from here. Now, on the one hand, 100% is going to take a hell of a move. On the other hand, this is crypto. That could occur in one day. So, but that's what we're watching for on CASPA. As you can see here, I mean, clearly, weak chart right now. It's a weak chart. We've been in a downtrend since what? July of 24. Nothing but, moving lower, right? But we're beginning to see the potential signs of a higher low. So that's what to watch for on CASPA. You're welcome, Todd. Oh, you know what? Did you, Natty Light, did you, reach out to me on X and I promised to chart this for you? I'm pretty sure. I said if you join the live stream, I'll chart it out for you. I feel this sounds familiar to me. Is that true, Natty Light? Am I recollecting this correctly? My memory sometimes isn't the best, but damn right. See, I know my followers. And I'm a man of my word. I am definitely a man of my word. I have many faults, but integrity is not one of them. Let's open the H-bar BTC chart, and then we'll make your chart. Again, this here. This is what the majority of every single altcoin looks like it paired against BTC. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. We're gonna save this as. Let's make a copy. When you get up at 4:30 in the morning, it's okay to yawn at 5:13. All right, let's take a look. By the way, I don't know if you guys follow me on Instagram. That just reminded me as I said that. Real quick, before we take a look at this H-bar karate, I want you to do yourself a favor today. It'll take you 50 seconds, okay? I want you to go to YouTube, okay, after the live stream, all right? Not right now. Go to YouTube and look up the original 1980s Reading Rainbow opening, okay? And you tell me if the creator of that opening wasn't tripping on LSD. I don't know if he was on shrooms, LSD, I don't know. But that shit is whack. It is psychedelic. Yeah. Anyway. The things you realize as an adult that you don't as a kid. H bar. Oh, wait. What the hell am I doing here? You got to trick. What am I doing? Okay, so I like the utility, but karate has lost a ton of value versus H bar. Could you analyze? Okay, so we're not going to analyze karate USD. We're going to analyze H bar charted against karate. So the way to think about this is this chart, we're going to divide it by 100 because the values are so high. There we go. So the way to think about this, because H bar is in the numerator, this is H bar's strength relative to karate. Now, if we wanted to flip it, basically flip the numerator and denominator and say, well, what's the strength of karate relative to H bar? We could just invert this chart. If you invert it, that's, you know. Now, interestingly enough, it looks like we're getting a rounding bottom. This here, to me, no matter what the price indicators tell me, this rounding bottom suggests there's at least going to be some sort of a spike up. Given the downtrend, I would suspect there'd be strong resistance right there. So maybe we come up here for a dead cat bounce and continue rolling over. Karate looks extremely weak, though, against H bar. There's no doubt about that. So I could see a potential bounce for karate versus H bar, but right now, if I were to chart this, this is on a weekly. Nice. It's an area of support right here. Not much confluence because it's run up so much. Basically, this region, I really don't want to. If we dip below this region, maybe we lose it temporarily and continue up. But, I mean, we're just in a strong uptrend right now. And by the way, inverting charts gives you a different perspective on what might play out. So if we were to invert this, again, there is a case here. Well, let's actually take a look at this. There is a case that there could be some sort of a dead cat bounce in karate versus H bar, but predominantly, don't lose focus on the main point though. Predominantly, we are in a downtrend, okay? And I certainly wouldn't want to own karate over H bar. Because it's in a big down. And think about it this way. If H bar has expressed so much weakness to BTC, okay, and that chart doesn't look bullish, but then karate doesn't look bullish relative to H bar, I can't imagine what the karate BTC chart looks like. That must be pretty horrific. But yeah, so maybe we get some bounce up here, but maybe it doesn't occur all the way to here, right? Maybe we come... maybe we kind of ride this for a little while. Remember, it's a relativity chart. It's price performance mapped against each other. It's not USD price performance. We could range here and just get a little pop here and then just roll over. Either way, my friend, H bar is significantly stronger to karate. This would not make me feel very confident holding karate. All right, guys, that's going to do it. I hope you found the stream helpful. Once price action starts to pick up, and again, I think Bitcoin needs to really make up its mind over the course of the next 4 to 8 weeks. I think it's very possible, I'll at least say this, it's very possible that by next week we could start to see some pretty significant price action. If that's the case, I will be out here. But let's be patient. Continue to stick to the charts that I shared with you. And if you appreciated the content, make sure to hit the thumbs up. Drop me a comment. Let me know you were here. And until next time, let's all spread awareness. Let's carry the education forward, my friends. Take care.